What's up guys, I'm Ryan. So yesterday we had the WWDC event, which is a software event, and right in the middle of all these new and cool software announcements, Apple managed to surprise the fans with the announcement of the new M2 chip and the 2022 MacBook Air and the new 13-inch MacBook Pro. Although many of us already knew that these were very likely coming. So starting with the new M2 chip, which is a successor to the current M1 chip, we see quite a few improvements over the previous generation of the Apple chip. First off, the new M2 chip has more than 20 billion transistors. Yeah, that's with a B, and that's already 25% more than the M1. And considering the fact that both the M1 and M2 chips are built on a 5nm technology, that's already an achievement if you ask me. Imagine what they could do with a 3nm technology. That just automatically means more transistor density, and more transistors equals better performance. And speaking of performance, Apple seems to have a different approach to gaining performance than many other manufacturers. Instead of increasing the power consumption or your electricity bill to gain more performance, with the Apple Silicon, they've been trying to gain the most performance per watt, or what they call a power efficient performance. So the CPU cores of both the M1 and M2 chips feature 4 high performance cores and 4 high efficiency cores, so 8 cores in total. So the number of cores have not changed, but they've still enhanced both the performance and efficiency cores. This has resulted in 18% improvement in performance of the M2 chip compared to the M1, but here's the interesting part. It uses the same amount of power consumption to achieve this kind of performance improvement. Now with the M1 chip, you could only have up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, but now the M2 chip offers up to 24 gigabytes, which means you can run more apps simultaneously and expect smoother operations for more demanding tasks such as video editing and gaming. But the M2 chip also has a better integrated GPU with up to 10 cores. So again, 2 more cores, larger cache on larger memory bandwidth will definitely be appreciated for things like gaming and other graphics intensive tasks. So with this, again, they've managed to pull off a 25% improvement of the GPU of the M2 compared to the M1 with the same amount of power consumption. And because of those 2 extra cores, the performance improvement can be up to 35% with, of course, more power consumption. Of course, there are some other improvements on the M2 as well, but those are the ones that most of us really care about. And this chip will end up in the new 13-inch MacBook Air with a new design, and also the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So the new MacBook Air has MagSafe charging once again, with the cable coming in the same color as the laptops, and 2 Thunderbolt ports plus a headphone jack. Man, every time there's a new laptop release, I get so nervous. Is there going to be a headphone jack or not? Especially if it's an Apple release. But now that we don't have to worry about that, the new MacBook Air looks awfully like the MacBook Pros with that notch, except that the bezels are not as thin as MacBook Pros. If you're a subscriber of my channel, you might know that I hate notches, and I know that many MacBook Pro users either don't care or have gotten used to it by now. But for me, no. Never. I don't like notches. I believe in the power of symmetry, and notch definitely doesn't help with that. So if you've been a MacBook Air user and you thought that maybe your laptop is immune to a notch, well, it wasn't. The good news is that the display size has increased ever slightly from 13.3 inches to 13.6. Not only that, the webcam now features a Full HD camera, and the display has a peak brightness of 15 nits, which is 25% brighter than the last gens. And now we get a 4-speaker sound system with a spatial audio and obviously no touch bar, which is great, and with a much larger escape key, so then it should leave no room for you to press any other keys by mistake. The MacBook Air comes in 4 colors of midnight, space gray, silver, and starlight. Which one's your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Can you guess mine? There's a hint in the video. But Apple thought, in the spirit of making a side product that really shouldn't exist in the first place, let's make a new 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is basically just like the MacBook Air, but really a little bit worse than that, and a little heavier and a little more expensive, and even has a slightly smaller display size, a worse webcam than the Air, and unlike the MacBook Air, has a fan which will beautifully sing a song for you every time you plug it into an external monitor. So it really doesn't make sense for a lot of people to buy this laptop The only thing that's better than the Air is a 2-hour longer battery life, which is so insignificant. Trust me, it's just a name. You want a more powerful one, you'll get a 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro, not this. The only two, and I emphasize the only two reasons as of now I can recommend anyone to buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro are if you absolutely cannot live with a notch, but even I can live with a notch as much as I hate it. And the other one is that if you specifically spend a lot of time doing creative work, editing, rendering, etc., then the fan actually helps with maintaining that performance you'd get from an M2 chip. And maybe if you already have a 2020 13-inch MacBook Pro and you want the same device but with better performance, then it might actually also be a good reason to buy it. Anyways, that's it for today. Exciting times are ahead of us this year. See you in the next one.